Major spoilers ahead for The Last of Us Part 2, so if you haven't played the game, please go out and buy a PS4 and play the game and come back here. Or check out my Let's Play because I'm desperate for views. Also, spoilers ahead for all these things. Anyway, on to the video. The Last of Us Part 2 came out almost 2 months ago, and it's fair to say the internet has had interesting reactions to the game.
No! God, please, no! 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 I'm in a glass case of emotion!
Since then, I've been trying to think of the best way to talk about the game besides saying that the haters are wrong and the game is a masterpiece like no other. I mean, I could go on for days on end about that, but haters just gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. And ain'ters gonna ain't.
That is not an actual thing people say.
What's been most fascinating about the stark reactions of hatred to the game are those that believe that the revenge plot was poorly executed and became pointless by the end when Ellie decides to let Abby live and not kill her. But I'm going to raise you have no idea what good storytelling and great character development is with a helping of let me explain.
I have played this many full poker games.
You see, what this game does with its revenge story that's not often seen is the main character chooses not to commit their revenge and lets the other person live, realizing they can't go through with it. Most revenge stories are about a person that gets hurt in some way from someone else, and the only way they can move on is by getting revenge on the other person by killing them. We've seen this dozens of times in films like John Wick, Django Unchained, Kill Bill, and even Deadpool. I think why the reaction to the ending in the game as a whole is the way that it is that it doesn't fit into most people's idea about what a revenge story should be. Most of the time, a revenge story is just shooty bang bang with no real exploration into the psyche of the character. So by the end, they get their revenge and nothing really changes for them as a person. So when The Last of Us Part 2 said, hey, you know the main character you love in the first game? Well, we're gonna kill him off, have you go hunting his murderer, then in a twist you'll be playing as his murderer, exploring what revenge does to someone who's already committed it, and they have to find their humanity again, and then switch your characters again, leave your girlfriend and child behind because you still have PTSD from everything that's happened in the game and believe the only way to make it go away is to kill the person responsible, but in the end you realize you can't go through with it because it's not what Joel would want, and you realize that Abby's not actually a horrible person, but someone that was broken like you and wanted revenge just like you did. It was certainly a surprise to players. So to understand what kind of revenge stories people are used to, let's look at some of the most famous revenge movies, John Wick and Django Unchained. In the beginning of John Wick, we find out that John's wife had died and left him a puppy and car before she had passed away. Then some Russian gangsters steal his car and kill his dog, prompting John to go back into the life he swore off for good in order to hunt down those that took the last things from his wife. By the end, he finds the guy responsible for killing his dog and stealing his car and kills him. And they all lived happily ever after, well, except for the people that didn't. Then there's Django Unchained. In Django, we follow an emancipated slave named Django who teams up with a German bounty hunter that set him free to not only train as a bounty hunter himself, but to hone his skills to save his wife and get revenge on slave owners and those that took and harmed his wife. Django is not set out to make you think deeply about slavery in the ways that 12 Years a Slave does. Instead, it wants you to feel for Django, and once he hones the skills he needs to kill those that have abused him, his wife, and black people for centuries, it's very satisfying to witness.
That's good to know.
What both John Wick and Django Unchained do with the revenge story is they make it easy for the audience to understand who the character is, the hardships that they've endured that make them want to seek out revenge, and once they begin to act on it, the audience is having a great time seeing it all play out.
Sheriff, he's over here.
But what about movies and stories that do analyze what revenge does to a person and how it affects them? Well, to that, I say Deadpool.
I'm touching myself tonight.
Yeah, many people forget, but Deadpool is a revenge movie. You see, in the movie, Wade gets cancer, and the only way he sees to survive, not only for himself, but so he can be with his girlfriend Vanessa, is to take a very shady deal to be experimented on in hopes to find a cure. Some torture montage with juxtaposed music, and bada bing, bada boom, you got superpowers, with a not-so-good-looking face as an extra surprise. Because of this, Wade believes that he can never see Vanessa again because of how he looks, and this causes him to want revenge on the greatest villain ever put to film, Francis.
How tough can he be? With a name like Francis.
Francis?
That's his legal name. He got Ajax from a dish soap.
At the end, when he finally is about to kill Francis, Colossus begins to give a big speech about what it means to be a hero, and 5 moments, another hero bullshit, and Deadpool kills Francis with this amazing reason as to why.
You were droning on.
What Deadpool does is it subverts our expectations. Since it's a superhero movie, the audience is led to believe that our hero will do the right thing and let the villain live, hence we get Colossus' speech, but because Deadpool be Deadpool, he don't work like that, and finishes what he began without any moral repercussions on his psyche. But that's not an actual exploration into what revenge does to a person, I hear you say. Well, fine then. How about this?
I will finish it.
War for the Planet of the Apes is a tense and sometimes horrifying look at not only how far humanity will go to maintain control, but how far someone would go to get revenge on those that took everything they loved without thinking of the impact this would have on others. In the film, Caesar's wife and eldest son are murdered by a general played by Woody Harrelson.
Free! At last!
Who leads an army hell-bent on killing all the apes because they blame them for the virus that wiped out humanity. Because of this, Caesar goes on the hunt for revenge, but once he finally catches up to Woody...
Look, I'm Woody! Howdy, howdy, howdy.
He finds that because of his actions, all the apes have been captured and forced into slave labor, and he gets captured as well. During this time, we learn that the virus has mutated and is de-evolving humans, turning them back into primitive beings, making the soldiers' hunt for the apes that much more serious to them. By the end, when Caesar finally has the opportunity to kill Woody... he finds that he can't do it, seeing that he's infected with the virus. Caesar finds that he can't murder someone helpless and defenseless like Woody is in this moment, so he instead lets Woody kill himself so he doesn't further de-evolve. There's a lot more I can get into with this film, but here's the main thing to take away from it. Caesar is constantly battling with his inner self if what he's doing is right and if he should go through with it, because if he doesn't, how is he any better than Koba, an ape that despised the humans and wanted revenge on them for all the abuse he suffered as a test monkey for so many years. This ultimately led to his downfall, seeing he couldn't forgive the humans and move on to a better life. So once Caesar gets to that moment of killing Woody, he finds that he can't do it, that there's still some part inside of him that won't do it, that has forgiveness and empathy still inside of him. So now we've looked at some examples of different types of revenge in movies. How exactly does The Last of Us Part 2 do it? Well, in the move no one saw coming, unless you saw the spoiler leak, is it splits its story into two different ones that converge on each other. The first story is Ellie's. In the beginning, she sees Joel murdered and she wants revenge on the woman that killed the only person that she could call family. Throughout her story, we begin to see just how far Ellie is willing to go to get her revenge, going from just killing those responsible to committing full-blown torture.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
As this is happening, we begin to see the toll that her actions are beginning to take on her psyche, and it's clearly not making anything better, but she believes that she's come this far and she has to see it to the end. About halfway through, Ellie kills more people that had a hand in Joel's death, but when Ellie finds out one of the women she killed was pregnant, this is when she finally realizes that she can't keep doing this, that it's doing more harm than good. But then the game does a whammy where Jesse gets killed and Abby is the one that did it, and just when we think it's about to end, BAM! We play as Abby.
I'm sorry, what?
This is where we get to see the second revenge story in the game. For Abby, her revenge was killing Joel because he not only killed her dad, but that he ruined the last chance to save humanity. So for years, she builds up this hatred and rage and gets real swole while waiting. So once she kills Joel, this is when we believe that it's it for her revenge story. But it's where it's really beginning. See, Abby's revenge story is one about reflecting on what happens to someone after they get their revenge, how it affects not only them and those around them, but how that person finds their humanity again. As Abby's story progresses, she's saved by two members of a faction she's been fighting against with the WLF for years. Now Abby's narrative has shifted to finding her humanity again and protecting Yara and Lev, similar to how Joel's story in The Last of Us was finding his humanity again and protecting Ellie.
Holy mother-forking shirt balls.
So lots of things happen. Yara loses an arm, Abby and Owen do the
Devil's Tango.
Lev is the best, heartbreak, killing, typical Naughty Dog stuff. And it all comes to a head when Yara dies, saving Abby and Lev's life, and Abby discovers that all her friends have been killed, leading her to Ellie. This concludes in Abby almost killing Ellie and Dina, but once she finds out Dina's pregnant and Lev giving her a look of, "The fuck you doing?" Abby decides that there's been too much death and pain and lets them both live. So game over, right? We all had a good time and we can all go about our days wrong!
Good guess, but wrong.
The game continues going, and we're once again playing as Ellie, living the good life with Dina and the cutest baby ever, JJ, and all's good until a stupid sheep causes some PTSD in Ellie, and now the revenge lust starts again. Because Ellie continues to be haunted by what Abby did, she believes there's no other way to make the pain go away than by killing Abby. But Dina says, "How about not? Stay here with me and the baby, but if you don't, wheeze out because I can't go through with this again." Ellie says, "Peace." Again, I'm paraphrasing here, and goes on the hunt. Once she finally finds out where Abby may be, months have passed by. Abby and Lev may have found where the Fireflies are, but then they get captured and forced into slave labor. A lot of weird parallels with slave labor in a lot of revenge movies. Ellie tracks them down, and once she finally finds Abby, we see that she is a shell of her former self. Broken, beaten, barely any life left in her. So again, we the audience believe this to be the moment where the game and Ellie take the high road and let Abby live, right? Nah, Naughty Dog said, "Have fun playing one of the darkest and saddest fights you'll ever play. Enjoy!" And by the end, when you've almost killed Abby, Ellie sees Joel again, but not the bloody corpse of him, but when he was alive and happy. Ellie lets go of Abby and lets her live, letting her and Lev to find the Fireflies. Once Ellie returns home, she finds Dina and JJ are gone, leaving her to recollect on the consequences of her actions and how much she had to go through to find peace again, but at what cost?
was intense.
So why do so many people have a problem with how the game presents its revenge story? It's laid out in a way that's easy to grasp and understand, and you can clearly see how the developers wanted the themes to weave through not just the game, but the characters as well. So what's not to get? Well, I think why it's hard for so many people to get into the story and see it for what it is that you're going on the hunt for revenge of the death of a beloved character, which is different from so many revenge stories out there. In the examples I laid out earlier, none of them had any real significant characters that caused the audience blood-boiling rage like the character felt. They were more the catalyst for the plot to move forward. But in The Last of Us Part 2, the character that dies was the main character from the first game. This isn't just some random person that we know nothing about. It's someone that we've loved to see grow and change and find his humanity again. So, like Ellie, many people just felt that blood-boiling rage and wanted nothing but revenge on Abby. But the problem here is that it blocks their perceivings of the rest of the game. So once it shifts to Abby, they're not intrigued or pulled into her story. They just hate her and will keep on hating until the game is done, missing out on the deeper themes and growing themselves like Ellie does. This is not saying the game is written poorly, not in the slightest, but it's more about the fans themselves and what they wanted to see. In the marketing leading up to the game, Naughty Dog was very wise in making us believe that Dina was the one that would die and send Ellie on her quest for revenge. This would fit into the same kind of revenge narrative that we're so accustomed to, but it ultimately wouldn't have had the same impact as a significant character like Joel dying did. I'm willing to bet that if the spoiler leak didn't happen, then maybe the reception to the game would have been different, but we'll never know. Maybe if more mainstream movies and shows had complex revenge stories like The Last of Us 2 where a main character is the one that dies, maybe more people wouldn't have been so pissed off with this game. Life really imitated art with this game. Revenge stories can be very captivating for the audience to sit back and see some bad people get what's coming to them. But when something asks you to really think about the ramifications of getting revenge and why exactly someone wanted revenge in the first place and how it affects them afterward, it might be something a lot of people aren't ready for. Hopefully in the coming years the haters can finally move past their pity hate and see the game for the masterpiece that it is, but until then I'll leave you with this that fits very well with how I feel about playing the game and always praising it.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.